Good afternoon, Twitch and YouTube. So, what I'm going to be doing today is just doing a short broadcast, short probably being around half an hour to an hour, but basically it's going to be covering how to make a board game. So, one of the things is, as some of you may have seen, I'm working on a game based on the Defense Grid license called Defense Grid the Board Game. While working on that, in order to hopefully have a successful business long time, I've got to start working on another game. So I figured now is a good opportunity to not only start working on the other project, but also to record some of what I do and share it with the community. One, I may learn something from some of you about how to do stuff even better than how I'm doing it. But for those of you who are just getting started or thinking about working on board games, maybe some of this will help you get going. So today what I'm going to focus on is just how to use InDesign. So as you can see, I've got InDesign up right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Adobe InDesign combined with a spreadsheet program. In my case, I'm going to be using Microsoft Excel, both their online and their local app versions. And the main thing is you need a program. OpenOffice can also work for this, that can save as a tab delimited CSV file. That way, Adobe InDesign can interpret it for something called DataMerge. The other thing that you need to know about this is I highly recommend not to use Google Docs. At least as of when I made this video in 2016, it still has some issues where it doesn't really save all the characters correctly, and sometimes white spaces will end up as some other just random character, and that can make it a really big pain to do your playtest print runs, or if you use this to actually eventually build your final PDFs you plan to send off to a manufacturer, to go through and clean up all of it and not miss anything. So I'd mostly recommend for right now stick with something like OpenOffice, or if you have your hands available to it, Microsoft Office. Unfortunately, the online version of Microsoft Office currently will not let you save directly as a CSV, but if you have the local client version, or you can even just save the file off somewhere, like onto your OneDrive or Dropbox, and then open it with an iPad or Android version, or if you happen to have a Windows Phone version of the free versions of Excel Microsoft gives out on those platforms, you should be able to resave it as a CSV there and then be able to access it. But that's a lot of extra work. I would personally, if I didn't have Microsoft Office, just get something like OpenOffice or some crap like that. But in the meantime, this is just a quick walkthrough. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is load up InDesign and create basically a new file. Now, I generally, when I create my new documents, it's called a document, I tend to use the orientation of the landscape. The reason for that is from a playing card perspective, or most board game component perspective, they're going to be wider for the overall print than taller. So for example, if you went with a portrait design, you could only fit 9 playing cards on a sheet, where at best. And even there, honestly, most people, it's going to be really cutting it close, and your printer may not be able to handle the edges. So by going wide, you can put 8, and you can make them all easily visible and manipulated. So I choose landscape. I tend not to set any margins just because they annoy me. But if you know the margins of your printer, I would highly advise setting those margins here. Now you'll see that these are in P values. Those are called picas, P-I-C-A. If you're looking for how to handle that, as far as like you measure it on your paper after you do like a full bleed print, then all you have to do is search online, Google or Bing, and basically go picas to inches or millimeters conversion, and it'll help you figure out what those are. Or you can just experiment with it. It's not too bad. Pick whether or not you're planning to print to letter or legal size. For some of my jobs, I do print to legal, but most of the time I end up sticking with letter just because it's cheaper, more convenient, and you can get cardstock in letter side a lot easier than you can get legal in letter size. sorry about my random cat howling. He does that periodically. Okay, so the other thing I remove is facing pages. Make sure facing pages is not checked. If you do, your data merge is just going to go to shit in a handbasket, honestly. It's not worth it. I've heard of people making it work, but I would just not bother. Also, don't worry about columns, gutter, leave those alone. You're not going to have to deal with that at all with some of the board game development stuff we're doing. Okay, so after you get that all set up, you click, you'll get your little layers panel open. You'll have your nice little frame here for where you're going to be working on your stuff, and you've got a good start. But you have nothing yet. So first thing you'll want to do is take either the rectangle or the rectangle frame tool. I usually just stick with the rectangle tool because it's just more intuitive. There's really no difference when you're dealing with this for, once again, data merge. So you come in here, just create any size box. Doesn't really matter how big. Most of the time Adobe will default to 1 point stroke border. That's this outer edge here. So if I zoom in on this, you can see this little black border around the outer edge. That's basically what that's doing. But it'll set the stroke to be equal inside and outside. We only want that to be on the inner edge so that your dimensions stay accurate. So there's this, after you click stroke here, you'll have align stroke to inside. You click that. If you notice it all moved right to the inside, I'll pop back and forth a couple times. That's splitting it. That's all inside. So that's how we want it. One point weight is just fine there. You're probably not going to use this when you get later. This is just to more or less give you cutting lines. So after you print your prototype, you can cut it nice and easily. Next thing we need this to be the right size. Now, like as mentioned with the Pikas before, that's going to be what you have your width and heights and everything default to. If you're like me, that's a pain in the ass. So I immediately switch that over to millimeters on both the horizontal and the vertical rulers that are along the side. And you can see quickly that the width and the height adjust accordingly. Now, if you're in the US, and actually some European as well, they still do this, you'll want to set the dimensions to be what people are familiar with the playing card. So in most cases, that's going to be 63.5, oops, I can type, 63.5 millimeters by 88 millimeters. And as you can see, it immediately adjusts the box size and keeps the stroke, everything for you. So now we've got a nice little start, all good. So now you've got the dimensions of a card. Whoop-de-doo. That's not going to do you a whole lot. So now you're going to need to have probably some form of a title up at the top. So I'll just put random title up there. You're probably going to want some form of an art block sitting in the middle there. And then you may even want some description text on the bottom. Now, for my purposes, I'm going to switch the title over to the font that we acquired and licensed for, and by the way, licensing fonts for commercial product, dirt fucking cheap. Cost us like $6 to get this awesome little one. So I'm going to swap over to the Renegade font. There we go. You can see that updates nice and cleanly. For general text, I tend to be a fan of Go UI, and I just generally pick the regular, that's a little big, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Now for my title text, I'd want it a little bit larger, so I'll just kick that up to like 20 right now. Let's call it good. So now I've got some of the rough stuff for a playing card. I've got a title area, an art area, a frame, and a general descriptive text. Not going to worry about the sizes. As you can see, it's not perfect yet. That's the least of my concerns. So now I need to actually make some cards. This is where data merge comes in. If you don't already have the data merge field sitting on the right here, just go up to Window, and then, View. View. I know my Adobe tools, really. Why is it popping back? Oh, okay. Or do I know my Adobe tools? Okay, that is off, but I will deal with it. Where is that? There it is. Utilities, data merge. And there it is, and it'll pop right in, and you'll be all good. So once again, for those watching remotely, Window, For some odd reason, this mouse is acting badly up there. Utilities, DataMerge. All good. Okay, so now we've got that handled. Now our big problem is we need to get data into this. We need to create that data. In the case of Mech Defense, I lucked out a little bit. So I already have a bunch of art created for Mech Defense. These are various PSD files I've put together in coordination with a wonderful artist by the name of David White that does some amazing mech art. You can use PSD files, you can use JPEGs, PNGs, Illustrator, just about anything you can data merge. So worry less about the file type and more about just getting the art somewhere. So in this case, I've got this in an old folder. This isn't very useful. I need to get it accessible to my files. But first, I need a file for it to be accessible to. So first thing is, I'm going to take this Illustrator file and I'm going to save it. So let's get it up into my Mech Defense folder, and you'll want to create some form of like an Adobe folder or something. This will just help to keep things organized, and also it'll be important for the data merge when you start dealing with the folder structure required. So put it in there, and I'm just going to call this player card. There we go. So that now I've got this saved off. It's called playercard.indd. We're all good there. Now I need to start working on my file. So I've got the same folder here up on my OneDrive. I like to use OneDrive especially because I have a partner that works with me on these board games. And as a result, we can both collaboratively work on the XLS files that feed into the data merge. So when we're working on cards together, we can be sitting right next to each other, both editing the exact same file, tweaking text, adding cards, whatever we need to do to get the work done. And it's a lot more collaborative than just using offline files and trying to send them over email or Dropbox or whatever in the hell we do. So here, now I need to create my first file. So I go New, Excel Workbook. Now this doesn't stop you from, if you're a solo designer working offline, go right ahead. That'll work as well. But another advantage is if this system dies, I don't lose my game. So I really like that. Now I'm going to name it, and I'm going to name this player card. Call that good. So now that's done. So now it just looks like any other Excel file. Now the main thing you need to realize is when you're dealing with data merge, columns are what's important. All of these columns, these letters up here, that's what determines what you can data merge. Now, you can put extra columns than you need if you want extra information just for your own personal purposes, but the columns are what become loadable. So, we're going to have a title, we're going to have a description, and we're going to have some kind of main image and a card art. So, what I'm going to start with is, let's do title. Then let's do description. Description I'm going to make a little bit wider just because it's really nice to have it nice and wide. Then I'm going to leave the other two alone because those are art ones, and we'll get into that in a moment. I'm going to start with the text because it's easiest to understand, and then I'll show you how we're going to go about actually using data merge to import art. So we've got a few wonderful mechs in our game. We have the cheetah. He's extremely fast but low AP. Then we've got the leopard. Middle of the road. Then we've got the panther. Also middle of the road, but a little more AP. And then we've got the tiger, high weight carry, and slow. I was going to say slow as fuck, but I'll just leave slow for now. We also have an additional 8 mechs that we designed. I'm not going to go into too much detail on those right here. We don't even know if we're going to put them into the actual game right now, because while we have miniatures designed for these 4 from our old game, we don't have them for the other 8 yet. But just to flush this out a little bit more so we at least get a full page, I'm going to put 4 of them in here. So we have a cobra, we have a mamba, we have a hawk, and an eagle. So those are 4 of my favorites out of the remaining 8. As you can tell, we went with kind of a cat, snake, bird theme. They were our 3 tiers of mechs. So I'm kind of happy about that. I think you'll love the art when you see it, or at least I hope you do. Okay, so now we've got that loaded up. Now I need this file somewhere. So let's save as. Oh, not save as. I always make that mistake myself. You need to download. If you're using OneDrive, it'll load up. If you're just using Excel, you'll just be in this view. After this pops up, enable editing, choose save as. I need to go up to my OneDrive, and where is that? There's Mech Defense, and now I go into the Adobe folder as well. You want the CSVs to be in the same folder as your InDesign files are. So now you come up here, you choose, you can either do comma delimited or tab delimited. In my experience, comma delimited just generally works more reliably and better with InDesign. So I would stick with that as your CSV format. So you choose that, choose save. It'll ask you, because it's going to CSV, oh God, you're going to lose features. You don't care, you say save. Now this is highly important. Close the file. If you don't close the file, InDesign will keep telling you it can't find the file, can't find the file, can't find the file. So you really need that closed. I keep messing that up myself, even though I've been doing this for over a year and a half. I'll edit stuff and then I'll leave it open and I'll be like, oh God, why can't I do anything? Okay, so now that we have that available, now we need to get that data into InDesign. The next step here is select DataMerge. Now, it gives you a little bit of details here that tell you roughly what I'm about to say, which is basically you have to map a data source, and then you're good to go. So you see this little drop down here. It's tiny. It's right by the little, these are called a caret. It's sitting right by it. You select it. Select data source. There you go. This case, see, it pops right open. It knows this folder. It knows where it is. It'll solve a lot of problems. I choose that CSV, and look, there's my 2 columns, title and description. So now all I need to do is come up here, highlight where I want the text formatting, everything I created before with my title, and choose title. Boom. Now you get this nice little looking thing. You can always take this, you can resize it, you can change the color of the font, add a stroke, whatever you want. The main thing is you don't actually screw with this text itself. Now I come in here and I've got the description, same thing. You can see it's got this kind of unique formatting that it does for everything. Just kind of deal with that. That's how it is. You're all good. So now I've got those in. Now I can do an actual test data merge. That's where create merge document in the lower right corner here is. You press that. You need to change this first time. Once you've done this and save the file, it will remember. You choose multi-record layout. Then you can come up here and we'll be tweaking this in a moment. I've got some default configurations I do for myself here, but I'm not going to worry about that yet. And you can preview if you want. And as you can see with the preview, it just shows you, hey, look, this is roughly what your card layouts are going to look like. But I'll just complete the data merge. You can see this goes really quick. And there's my 8 cards, all laid out for me. It built them all for me. It inserted all the text, everything. This is part of the reason why I love InDesign. It will save you so much time as these things get more and more and more complicated. And trust me, you can get really complicated with this. I'll show a couple before I sign off today. Okay, so now we've got that. That's working. You know your base data merge concept is functional. Now you're getting good to go. Okay, so now maybe you want the image in there. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to start by, here's my image files. I'm just going to grab all of these, and then I'm going to hop over to my folder for Mech Defense, go into the Adobe folder. Now these you cannot put in the root, and you probably wouldn't want to anyways because you'll probably have shit tons of image files by the end. And these image files will just fundamentally overload your folders. So I usually start by creating a little art folder. Then in that, I do whatever I categorize art individually so that I can sort it, find it easier, update it, all that good stuff. So in this case, I'll put Mech Chassis. actually. And usually I do what's called camel case, which is no spaces, just because it's easier when working in Excel. And now I will paste all of these over here. And thank God for SSD. I love my SSD. Okay, so now I've got all these. Now these are some pretty long names. I don't really care about having that long of names. So I'm going to do a little bit of quick renaming here. Oh, don't want to cut that off. There we go. Oh, looks like I'm getting pinged for something. Give me one sec. Oh, just got a delivery. Whoop-de-doo. Rename. This will make a lot more sense in a moment when you see why I'm doing this. And rename. You can see I have a couple other things in here as well, and I'll show you what those are for. It'll start to make sense as we move just a couple more minutes. If you don't like watching me rename, you can probably skip about 60 seconds, and this will be done. Well, unless you're watching live. If you're watching live, thank you very much, as I look over at my monitor instead of at the camera. Make sure nobody's posting questions yet. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments here on YouTube. If you're watching the stream live, I love to chat with people, even if it's not about what I'm actively working on. I've been known to chat about everything from anime to video games to board games, all that good fun stuff. If you have questions that I haven't answered today, or you think I might have gotten something completely wrong, feel free to let me know in either the YouTube chat, or I'll have a thread for this on the forums that you can see at the bottom, just below, discourse.forgebygeeks.com, and we're more than happy to work with you to get everything good. Okay, so now, let's see. I've got those set up. Now they're just the various mech names with .psd, so we're all good there. They're all sitting in the folder, oh, wrong view. They're all sitting in the folder where I need them. So now we want to link those. So now we come back here, and first off, I'm going to bold this top line because it just makes it stand out a little bit, which I always appreciate. Now this is the fun part. If you want to link an image, you have to know the relative directory, which is where the files are relative to where the InDesign file that's doing the data merge is. So in this case, if I want to load in the cheetah art, I need to map it to the relative directory. That's whack art, whack mech chassis. And there's your relative directory. Now you need to point to the actual file. So cheetah.psd. So there, that's all we need to do, and you've got that file mapped. Now the easiest thing to do at this point, copy these, paste them down, and load in the next one. In this case, if I can spell leopard, leopard, panther, and I just realized I misspelled panther over here, so I will fix that. Tiger here. Cobra here. Next up we have the mamba, the hawk, and last but not least, the eagle. So there we go. Those are all set, but now we need to tell InDesign how to actually see these as image files and not text. So the trick here is you have to put an apostrophe to start, followed by the @ symbol. That's the really important thing. Any cell you need to put apostrophe then @ Keep reminding yourself that. You need the apostrophe, then that, then you name it. So in this case, I'm just going to call it main card art. I press enter. Now you'll notice the apostrophe vanished from the cell here. That's by design. You basically gave a special command to Excel. That's all you really need to be aware of. But if you click here, the apostrophe is still present, and that's what's also important. So now we've got that set up. Now I'm also going to want to put some background art on the cards. So in my case, I have a hex background art. Keep going to the wrong folder. I don't need that folder anymore, so I'm going to kill that. And I think that this is the one I need, so I'm just going to do a quick spot check. As Adobe slowly loads up, I'll take a drink. Oh, that's got a little bit more than I would have liked, but it's not bad. So what I'll do is I'll take this, I'm going to drop the cheetah thing from it. I'm going to drop, oh, I kind of want some of that. Don't need the now on Kickstarter, so I'll kill that. I like having the logo there. Don't need that description, and I love that border. But we do not need the actual cheetah art. But it looks like that's all kind of merged together. Let's see. Oh, can I? Oh man, how did he link that? Oh, he's got the pattern locked in together. Okay, so this is not ideal, so I don't think that this is the actual one I'm going to go with for right now. So let's see what the other one looks like. Oh, that's that file. Okay, so we'll just use this for now. And actually I can do actually this is a good opportunity to show you how to play with some stuff. No, that'll be too complicated. Okay, so this is the one I'm going to use, the hex BG large. So let me just rename this as hex only. There we go. Now we've got that. And what I'm going to do is create another apostrophe at card back. And once again, you can see the apostrophe went away. Since I'm using the same folder structure, I'll just copy paste that over. And now I'll change this to hexback.psd. And I want that background on all of the cards, so identical across the board. So now we've got that basically set. Now we're going to hop over to this, and let's save and download a copy, just like we did before. So open it up, enable editing, file, save as, go to my OneDrive, set this as CSV. Once again, we've got Mech Defense, Adobe, and player cards. Replace it, yes, and kill it. Okay, so now that's all in there. So now you might question, do I have to go back through all of this loading stuff? No, there's this wonderful links tool up here. And you'll see this little bang here whenever you've updated your CSV file. So what you can do is you can right click on it and choose update link. And once you do that, all of your new fields will show up, as well as any other data changes that you did. So now let's switch back to the selection tool. Let's pick this kind of center art here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the border on it for right now, because I don't care about that. And I'm going to select main card art, and you can see it labels it and it gives its own nice little kind of border on it. Then I'm going to take the background and I'm going to select card art or card back. Now we've got everything just kind of linked together, and if we do another data merge, oh, it's not finding hex back. So let me double check that. Oh, that's because I said hex back instead of hex only. So I'll just rename the file. There we go. Yeah, so if it can't find stuff when you start linking in images, it will let you know. Don't worry about that. And there we go. So now you can start to see the stuff coming along here. And you can see I've got some background art. It didn't quite fit the size of the card. So you've got this white space above and below. I've also got, though, the actual like character image and stuff like that. So for the time being, I think I'm going to cut that background art out. So I'm going to Control Z here. That'll remove that. I'll just keep the border with the white. I've got the description text. I've got the title. I'm going to expand this title out. And let's center the text. And then I also generally set my boxes where I want the stuff. So I'm going to center the text in the box by, you can right click, choose text frame options, and choose align center. This is for vertical. And boom, you can see that slides down. So that's all good. Let's do another quick data merge. And I've got some basic cards already. Now you can easily imagine throwing on more imagery for iconography, stats, things like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pop open one of our old card designs from the old Mech Defense game. So this is definitely a little bit older here. But you can see we had all kinds of cards and other fun stuff. So what's a good one? Let's bring in, Oh, do I really want to go that aggressive? Yeah, why not? I'll show you our one of our munitions cards. So if I load this up, oh, actually that's not what I really needed. I just need a large card as well. So I'll take the enemy spawn. Okay, so first thing I need is some data that I used once before. So I come in here and I'm looking at multi-record layout. I'm looking for basically the margins I put on the top and bottom. So I have 12 millimeter and 27.4. So let's come over to mine. I'm going to close this out. Now, close out that one as well. Now I go in here, data merge, multi-record layout. Let's do top at the 27.4 millimeters and the left at the 12 millimeters. This will be remembered, by the way, once you save the file. If you don't save the file, it won't be. Now, if you look with the data merge, all the stuff is just kind of nicely lined up in the center for me. So I can have nice space along the side, so I'm not going to print into the dead zone on the printer. Since my printer doesn't do edge-to-edge printing, I can't print all the way there. So this will help with that, and I can cut all around this in between the cards. There's no gap in between the cards. If I zoom in, that blue line you see is just the framing preview lines, and that's all good. So now I can close that out, come back in here, and by the way, it doesn't matter where this is on the screen at this point. This is the only thing it's looking at. If you put any art or anything though outside of this box, it will screw up your data merge. So this is the only thing you need to worry about there. Now let me save it so that it saves the data merge settings. And now that's all good. And now I'll show you a slightly more complicated example. So here's our munitions cards. Let's see, let me make sure I'm in full preview mode here. Yep, there we go. Oh, no, I didn't want preview. That's backwards. Okay, so I want normal mode. So normal is showing me all the outlines. I've got all these boxes here. See all these text things that are data merging. One interesting thing you can see here is, see, this is one text box. And I basically stuck all of these on separate lines with their own font colorings, outlines, everything. So you can put multiples together. And now if you come in here, look at all of the data merge cells that I have in this file. There's tons and tons. Now if I click and actually merge this, these are 4 mini cards. These are more like the cards that you might see in some of the Cthulhu games, or you might see in various Euro games. These are quite small, but can be actually quite useful. So That's merging away. That'll take a couple minutes. Like I said, some of these can get really, really complicated. It's all up to you. But be careful, like everything else, and this is one of the things we learned from making this game, is that sometimes more complicated isn't always better. One of the big things we're really focused on with our Defense Grid board game is keeping a lot of the art, a lot of the cards, a lot of everything with as little data as is needed and as simple mechanics as possible. There is a place in the market for really complicated games, and at some point we really do hope to bring this back. But we think that one of the things, and this would be a piece of advice I have to any indie game developers that are just getting started like we are, is keep your first game out the door a bit more simple. You don't want a game that's going to scare off people. You don't want people to be questioning whether or not you as a brand new indie developer can pull off a complicated game. Even though we spent years working on the game, we got a lot of feedback during our Kickstarter, and a lot of feedback during some of the play testing that went on during our Kickstarter, where people are like, I'd love to back this game. I think this game is awesome. I've wanted a legacy game like this. But can an indie group really build a legacy game? So that's just something to be aware of. Sometimes simple is just better, and it may actually help you with your first couple games. Okay, I've got a cat that I need to move. He was about to sit down right in front of the camera. He likes the little tray I've got the camera sitting in. Okay, and as you can see, if you get more complicated, this happens. Data merging in and of itself is a very CPU intensive process. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you have a great GPU or not, Adobe is not going to use it. So you're going to end up with this very, very somewhat slow and methodic data merge that, and this isn't even my worst file. I've got one file that takes over half an hour to actually complete a data merge. That was all of our upgrade tree stuff, so that was a lot of fun. Okay, come on. Loading. Oh, and it's also actually downloading all of the images dozens of times over from your storage. A file like this that's only 2 megs as an InDesign file can easily end up being a couple hundred megs after data merge is complete because of all the duplicated imagery and everything else that it loads in. Okay, so while that's trying to complete, let me see. I'm going to hop over to our Defense Grid stuff, and I can show you a couple examples of some more detailed things that we're putting together there. So, as an example, let's see. We have our attack cards for our Defense Grid game. So if I open that up over here, in the copious spare CPU cycles I have, you can start to see how we can build out entire cards very simply with this. So you can have the name of the card, you can have the effect of the card, this is the text at the bottom, any other stats you want. We like to put type text on there, links to the card art, and then of course the card back. Just about exactly what I showed you to make a fairly intensive card. Likewise, we have our wave manager, which handles all of our waves for everything. This is very image intensive, so it has a bunch of cells across. So what this is we have the mission number, how many lanes, some different columns to use whether or not you're doing a single entrance. We have text blanks boxes that'll be blank if they're double or have this in them. We have the double entrance. We have a separator to separate it for 2 lanes. And then we have just text and images. So we have our enemy's image. The background for each individual enemy is different. We like to keep those separate in case we need to adjust the alignment at some point. And then the enemy name. Rinse, repeat for every enemy, for every wave, across all 7 waves, across all of our missions. So you can get really intense with some of this if you want to do so. And that's almost done. Where is that? Likewise, you can start seeing here, I've got art folder, backs, icons, some promotional stuff that we've put together, textures, some special stuff I've put together for Twitch. You can see all of our Adobe files mixed with all of our CSVs that we've saved off over time. So all of that's going together well. If we hop into the art, you can see I've got separate art for the AIs, more for the card backs, enemies, roads, the space backgrounds for our hex tiles, and our various towers. I love our towers. Or more appropriately, I love hidden past the defense grid towers. I'm very happy that we've been privileged enough to be able to use these. And it looks like that's just about wrapping up. Note to self, load smaller files. But I really wanted to show you what it looks like to have a big one, just to give you a feel. This is one of the downsides, but once again, this is going to be, if you need to make any changes to layout, this is going to be insanely faster for updating 100 cards in the future. Not to mention, a lot of manufacturers are going to want you to have the files in an Adobe format to do manufacturing. Oh, hey, I got a comment. Yes, so somebody popped on. You might have seen it pop over on the screen a couple of minutes ago, knowing my luck. That's a former coworker, actually. He was my boss at one time. And yeah, he's talking mainly about making Defense Grid into a board game. That franchise is so powerful, and we hope to do it just absolute justice. Okay. Come on, finish. I might have to cut some of this in the YouTube video I put up. Oh, there it goes. And now look, now you can start to see the power of this right away. So it's looking for overset text. That's not something what that basically means is the size of your font and the box you put it in is too small to fit all the text you're trying to merge. You'll get the hang of that over time, and it'll go pretty well. But so you can see right here now, look at all of these cards. Look at how different the colors are, the text, everything. Some of these I have images with extra text. Some I have multiple types of text at the top. We have all the boxes at the bottom, all the icon types, the money, everything. And this just assembled all of these cards for us, every single one of them. So that's one of the real powers of Adobe's tools. So in a future one, I'm going to get into some more details about how some of this works and how to make slightly more advanced cards. If you have any questions about using any of these tools, post to our forums, post to YouTube, send me a message on Twitch, whatever works for you, and always like, favorite, subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great one.